All right, hello everyone. I hope we are live. I'm gonna ask you guys to give me a sound check. Let me know if the sound is working well. I'm gonna turn on this recorder also on the phone so I can put this up on podcast like you guys asked me to. And I know I promised it several times and forgot to do it, so I am doing it now. Okay, guys, let me see here. How is the sound? Is sound on? Make sure the mic is on. Give me a sound check, guys. Sound is fine. Sound good. Sound good. All right, perfect. Guys, that was from the Tristar dorms. We have a Tristar dorms now. If you guys want to come and train with me and George St. Pierre, who teaches also at the Tristar gym, check out email tristardorms@gmail.com for vacancy. Book your rooms. Come train. I am there all the time, training every single day, at least minimum once a day. Sometimes I'm there 2, 3 times a day, and a variety of professional fighters there also. So check out tsdorms@gmail.com. Write them an email. Ask them what the prices are for the time you want to come in, and figure out a day for you guys to come in and train with us. Quick little few announcements. Okay, special thank you to TimTam.tech, our number one sponsor. They make the world's best deep tissue therapy device. I recommend their product super highly. Check it out. I am giving also a seminar next week, next Saturday in uh, Leeds at Scramble Academy. Scramble Academy. We're doing a seminar on Saturday. I will be putting up a poster on my Twitter feed and Facebook, TriStar Gym Facebook page coming up soon. I'm supposed to be getting the poster, I think, today. So I will be next Saturday giving a seminar in Leeds at Scramble Academy. It's about an hour out from Liverpool. Okay, we're gonna have the fights at Liverpool on Sunday. I'm gonna be an hour away from there doing a seminar on Saturday, the day before the fight. So if you guys are in the area and you want to come join the seminar, contact Scramble Academy and book your spot. I heard that it's selling up very fast. So that's just an update for my next seminar. For my Patreons, I will have another episode up tonight or tomorrow, early tomorrow. A great episode on defending yourself on side control bottom. You guys are gonna love it, and I'm gonna also have an in-action type video where I'm doing it live. Okay, so check that out, Patreons. Check out my Patreon page if you like, if you want to join. I will be hopefully doing another technique video for the YouTube channel very soon. I have been traveling, so unfortunately I have not gotten a lot of time to film. But I'm getting back on track hopefully this week for filming a video for you guys on this channel here. Okay. Again, I'm trying it on podcast. Okay, I'm recording with my phone now, so hopefully this will go up on podcast. This audio. I did live videos, but I found out you can't rip live audio. If you do a video live on YouTube, you can't rip the audio live. So that was a problem. So a few episodes are not on the podcast because I did them live. Okay, guys, let's get started now. What I'm gonna do this time, okay, I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit flowing. Okay, I'm gonna read your comments on the live chat here. I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna pick up a topic, and then I want to try to stay on that topic a little bit. Okay, instead of jumping from one topic to the next, let's stay on one topic at a time. And it could be spontaneous, and it could change. We could flow with it, but I want to stay on one topic at a time instead of jumping from one topic to another and spend a few minutes on one topic alone. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Till versus Wonderboy. Yeah, that's a fight I'm really looking forward to. Okay, I'll be honest with you guys. I've only ever seen one Darren Till fight, only one, and that was his fight against Cowboy Cerrone. Now, Cowboy Cerrone, I've trained with him for many years, years ago. The kid is a killer. Okay, we all know that. I don't have to tell you guys that Cowboy is a killer. And look, Darren, it's just his time. He got the better of Cowboy. There's no doubt about it. Okay, we all saw that fight. It was one-sided. He's just on fire. The kid's on fire right now. He had a performance of a lifetime against one of the most seasoned fighters in UFC. Now, what does that mean? That means, look, he's ready for a bigger test. He's ready for a really big challenge. Is he ready for the number 2 or number 3 or number 1 ranked contender in the welterweight division? I haven't checked the ranks in a while, but I know Wonderboy was 1, 2, or 3. Like, he's up there. Okay, is he ready for arguably one of the greatest kickboxers of all time? Is he ready for that level? That's another question. We're gonna find that out in Liverpool. Okay, so listen, I know that Steven said that he didn't even know who Darren Till was, and I believe him. I believe him when he says that. Okay, but that doesn't mean that Darren Till is not gonna make waves in Liverpool. Why? Because there was a time where nobody knew who Steven Wonderboy Thompson was. Okay, there was a time when nobody knew him. The first time I saw Steven was in a small arena. It was a professional kickboxing fight. And I'm actually the one who, when I spotted him, I saw how talented he was. I recruited him to come and train at TriStar, help me train George and spar with George, etc. And he got into MMA in short, because of us, a few of us seeing him kickbox in a small, tiny professional arena. Like there was maybe 1,000 spectators, maybe I would say less, maybe about 800 spectators. And we saw Steven, and he was like, we saw, okay, this kid's got a lot of skill. Let's bring him in. Let's work with him. And he started sparring MMA. He started doing. He had already done jiu-jitsu. Okay, don't forget his family had married into the Machado family had married with the Thompson family. So he was already doing jiu-jitsu. So we're like, hey, you're already doing jiu-jitsu. Why don't you try MMA? And he was like, yeah, maybe. He didn't really think about it. He was doing so much kickboxing and karate. But the story is that, look, the man was unknown, but he was super, super, super talented. Now I know Darren Till is not unknown. It's not that level, but look how unknown he was. And, when he popped into the MMA scene, he only had 6 or 7 MMA fights. Now, of course, he had hundreds of karate fights and close to 100 kickboxing fights. I think he has like 70 kickboxing fights. Okay, 70 or 80. I can't remember exactly. But if you put in his karate experience, he has thousands of fights. Like literally, no joke. He's got probably like 2,000 fights in karate. He's been fighting karate since he's 4 or 5 years old. And we're talking about point stuff where you hit only to the body. I get that, but it's still experience. That's still experience. Now, just because somebody's unknown doesn't mean anything. He could shock the world. If he beats Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, it will shock the world. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing this fight because I want to see more of Darren Till. He's a question mark to me. But his fight against Stephen, not against Stephen. His fight against Donald was a flawless victory. It was a flawless victory. And, ironically, he reminds me a lot of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Hands down a little bit. He's got that wide karate stance, which I love. And he's got that in and out style, that footwork, that in and out style, that sniper style, which I love. It works really well when you have long arms, when you have that speed, when you have that quickness. I think the edge is going to go to Steven. And here's why. And I'm saying this with limited experience with Darren Till's fights. I saw some sparring footage of Darren Till. I saw some. And he looks like he's very hand dominant. That's just from limited observation. Okay, maybe he has got a bunch of fights where he's kicking a lot. Maybe he does. I think Steven is a great kicker. Such a great kicker that I think he's going to give Darren Till a problem because of his kicks. Now, Darren Till's hands are sharp. Don't get me wrong, they're sharp. But I don't think that he has the kicking prowess or the kicking skill that Steven has. And that's going to make the difference. Whether it's going to be a draw, whether it's going to be, a majority decision or a split decision or what. Those kicks are going to give Steven an edge. They're going to give him an edge. Now, Steven's experience and his track record is undeniable. The guy's striking skill is unbelievable. Now, is Darren Till going to surprise us with a takedown? Is he going to get... Is the striking going to be so competitive that a surprise takedown can happen from Darren Till? Absolutely. He looks extremely athletic to me. When I look at Darren Till, again, guys, I've only seen one of his fights and some sparring footage. He seems athletic enough to shoot a powerful double. Doubles are not that complicated. Double leg takedowns are not that complicated. They just need to be set up well. People make such a fuss about the technique of double legs. And yes, that is super, super important. The technique is super important. However, what's more important is the timing and the setup. Okay, the setup and the timing is more important than the actual mechanics of the double leg. Like the king of double leg is George St. Pierre. And he doesn't do it with over technical emphasis. He doesn't do it with, hey, I put my hand exactly in this precise spot. No, it's not that complicated the way he does it. He's all about the setup. Did you hit it at the right time? Was your opponent off balance? Was your opponent surprised? Did you get deep enough on the legs? And these are the questions you need to answer. And I think Darren Till is very athletic. When I just by looking at him, he's super athletic, and his striking can set up a beautiful takedown, more than a seasoned wrestler maybe. Why? Because a seasoned wrestler won't get us close to Steven because of the striking. The striking is just too lopsided. So Darren Till is an interesting guy. Again, I'm saying this with limited experience. It's just my limited experience with his skills. I can tell you that he has great punching. He has great athleticism. And if he times a great double, and I don't know what his ground game looks like. You guys chime in here and tell me, what does his ground game look like? If he has a very threatening ground game, well, you know what? That could be a big problem for Steven. Because Steven will have to protect himself on two fronts. He'll have to worry about the takedowns and Darren Till's excellent striking. However, if Darren Till is mostly a striker and there's no takedown element, which again I don't know if there is, I see Steven edging him out with the kicks. I just didn't see that. I don't. I'd be surprised if Darren Till has that level of kicking that Steven does. But again, that's why I can't wait to see this fight, because I want to see. I want to see how they interact, how things go between these two very long, quick, powerful strikers. Super interesting fight. What do we got here? Musashi by KO. I don't know what you mean by that. Is Musashi fighting on the? No, he's not. He's in Bellator, so I don't know who he's fighting next. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu strength and conditioning advice. Well, this is a question I get a lot. Okay, so let's switch it over to conditioning here. I like conditioning. I think conditioning is important. Like some Jiu-Jitsu clubs, they don't do any conditioning. They just kind of teach you Jiu-Jitsu. They drill technique and then they roll. And then your fitness is your fitness. You kind of do what you want. Now, listen, that's okay. I think most people train like that. But for competitors, for people competing, like I have a lot of students who just do technique, then they roll and that's it, you know. And that's fine. But for people who are competing, like my athletes who are competing, I'm on them all the time about conditioning. You need to condition. Okay, it's really, really important that you do your conditioning. Why do you want to do your conditioning? The reason why you want to do your conditioning is number one, it protects you from injury. If you don't do conditioning, you can't train for hours and hours like you need to compete. And when you're competing, there's going to be a higher stress. There's going to be when you're competing, your joints are under more stress than in the practice room. Because in the practice room, you've rolled with the same partner many times. You've trained with the same partner many times. That partner knows you're better than him or not as good as him. And there's a kind of like a relationship that's, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, but sometimes you roll with somebody and they know, look, you've tapped them out 20 times. They know they're not there. They know they're not at your level and they kind of yield a bit, okay? But if there was a fight on the line, a prize on the line, or people are watching and it's being videotaped, people go more, they put up more energy, they put up more of a fight. And that violence, that type of energy can really mangle your joints. Now, if you've never competed, you don't know what I'm talking about, okay? But believe me, when you're competing, especially at the lower levels, there's like a wild, crazy, panic type energy, okay? There's like an extra level of intensity. And if your body's not well conditioned, your joints are going to get mangled, okay? So good conditioning can keep your body super, super healthy. Now, I'm not a big believer in doing conditioning strictly for cardio. Oh, I'm not in good shape, therefore I'm going to do conditioning and then I'm going to go back to the mats and I'm going to have good conditioning. No, good conditioning comes from being proficient on the mat. So skills are very important. But that's not to say that doing extra conditioning won't give you more conditioning on the mat. What I'm trying to say is that being fit is only one piece of the puzzle. Okay, you got to be competent and you got to be very fit. You need to have the two. If you're competent on the mat and you're fit physically, you did your conditioning, you're gonna have great conditioning on the mats. Okay, it's also, there's a third element, which there's more than three, but the third element that's really important is a mental type of fitness. Okay, a mental where you stay relaxed, you don't panic, because you can be in great shape. Like a rich person could spend all his money, right? He's not wise with his money. Same thing when you're on the mats, okay? Sometimes even very technical guys get emotional in there. They're very technical, but they get emotional. They get drawn into the battle and they spend all their energy instead of cruising and relaxing and spending your energy at the right time. So there's a wisdom that needs to be factored in here when it comes to cardio. Cardio is part wisdom. Okay? It's part intelligence, controlling. George always says he calls it controlling the pace, knowing when to spend energy, knowing when not to spend energy. So there's having energy and then there's knowing how to manage it. You got to manage your energy. So let's boil it down. Keep it really simple. Be competent on the mats. Know your techniques, right? Know your techniques. Be fit. Do your conditioning after practice. Do your push-ups, your pull-ups. Keep it basic. Only do the most basic exercises. Sprinting, pull-ups, push-ups, jump squats, the most basic exercises. Don't get into too complicated of an exercise. Okay, you're not a CrossFitter. You're a martial artist, so you only have time for the basics. Okay, and then a mental type of composure. When you're competing and you're fighting on the mats, you got to keep your composure. Don't lose your cool. If you lose your cool, that means you don't trust the technique. Okay, and if you don't trust the technique, there's something technically wrong. Okay, so don't get sucked into the battle, okay? Let's get next here. What do we got? how would LeBron James do in MMA if he trained? Okay, that's an interesting question. I'll tell you why. Basketball players have great footwork. Now, listen, I've trained athletes from every background. Okay, every background. And I'll tell you something. Whenever a ex-basketball player comes to the gym, I'll tell you something. They have a good instinct for striking. They have a good instinct for striking. I'll tell you why. The footwork. Again, I never played basketball. Okay, I've played very little basketball. Like at the lowest level you can imagine, that's the level of basketball I've played. Okay, like just recreationally, of course. Their footwork, when you see them dribble the ball and they zigzag, that's exactly what the footwork agility you need for MMA. Changing direction, hopping back and forth. This is of course, the jumping is great. You know, the explosiveness, obviously, that they develop, the hand-eye coordination, but the footwork, the pivoting back and forth, the cutting back, the zigzagging, the juking back and forth. That's really what you need for striking. And of course, basketball players usually have a long reach or tall, etc. That's also great for striking. So if LeBron James had the toughness of a fighter, okay, because he might not have the toughness, the mental fortitude, the toughness of a fighter, he can be very, very successful in MMA. And of course, he'd have to dedicate the hours and years, and he'd have to go through the ropes. But that footwork, that agility, that I also find in soccer players. If you find soccer players that come to MMA, or also usually have great footwork. Okay, obviously for obvious reasons. So whenever a sport has great footwork, like the juking and stuff, they usually make for great strikers. Now grappling is another set of attributes that you need. So it's hard to tell if he would have those. However, it'd be interesting to see if he did. How about hockey players? Yes, hockey players are always super strong. Now, don't forget, hockey players are sprinting down the ice. So they're constantly sprinting in bursts. And the skating is a plyometric. Skating is an excellent low-impact plyometric. Skating is an excellent low-impact plyometric. And in my experience, hockey players make tremendous MMA fighters. Excellent MMA fighters. George St. Pierre was a hockey player. Rory McDonald was a hockey player. Countless. A lot of the guys from Canada. A lot of hockey is obviously huge in Canada. I don't have to tell you guys. Okay, there's not a more popular sport in Canada than hockey. Okay, and they make incredible athletes. Posterior chain, the legs, the backs. Of course, when they take in those slap shots, the core, the explosiveness. It's a brilliant sport. They're always great athletes. I've never met a hockey player that I trained with that I felt, he was weak. He's physically not fit. No. They're all incredibly strong. Are gymnast rings good for MMA? I think they're good. Okay, gymnastics rings are good for MMA. But I'll tell you one thing about gymnastics rings. You have to be careful not to go too hard. Gymnastics rings are great for so many things. But however, I've seen people wreck their shoulders with gymnastic rings. Why? Because gymnastic rings are so challenging that everybody goes too hard on the rings. Nobody wants to go through the progression slowly. Rings are something you want to progress with comfortably and slowly, or you're going to wrench your shoulder. It's something that takes years and years to perfect. Years. And if you're doing MMA or you're doing jiu-jitsu full time, let's say you want to compete in MMA, you'll probably never get more than a blue belt level of gymnastic competence. Why? Because the time and energy it takes to master the rings, you can never spend enough time on the mats. Now, the exception to this is if you started gymnastics when you're really young and you have a background in gymnastics, these isometric holds. Okay, now imagine you're doing lots of isometrics at a young age on the pull-up bar. They make them do a lot of isometric holds, etc. Lots of different type of pull-up variations. And then you transfer that to the rings later on in your older age. Yes, you can be very competent in jiu-jitsu and very competent in the rings. You've done 2 lifetimes of training. You've done 20 years of training. Okay, that's possible. I agree that's possible. However, if we're talking about somebody who's going from white belt to black belt, that 10-year process, on average, the 10-year process takes about on average 10 years. That 10-year process, if you're trying to master the rings at the same time as you're trying to master jiu-jitsu, boxing, wrestling, just in my opinion, I haven't seen a way that it's doable. So keep the rings as a side project, just to keep your shoulders healthy and strengthen them, okay? Just to counter the side effects of excessive jiu-jitsu training, boxing training, okay? Cannot find Leeds seminar online. Guys, the Leeds seminar will be, contact the gym, Leeds. Scramble Academy in Leeds. Contact them, Facebook them. I got a message from them yesterday that they're selling very fast, so they haven't advertised it yet. They're gonna advertise it today, but I think they're just giving it to their members first. And they asked me to do a 2-day seminar. I'm not gonna be able to do a 2-day seminar, so I highly doubt it. I'll be able to do a 2-day seminar. If I do, it'll be like a happy surprise that I'll just throw in there. But it's probably gonna be a 1-day seminar on Saturday. It's happening. It's confirmed. Contact them. Book your spot. If you guys are in the area, book your spot. They're probably just keeping it for their members just yet, and then they're gonna announce it to the public afterwards. I guess I blew the whistle and I announced it to you guys before, but they told me they're gonna release the poster today. So I'm letting out the cat out of the bag here. If you guys want to come, make sure you go to the Scramble Academy website, contact them, and book your spot. What is the seminar on, guys? It's gonna be like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whatever they want to learn. I'm gonna probably show a lot of jiu-jitsu and wrestling stuff. Okay, it's gonna be great. I promise you. Okay, let's see. One guy got booted out. When is a seminar in London, guys? I'm not doing a seminar in London. It's gonna be in Leeds. Okay, so it's Leeds. London's like 4 hours away, I believe. It's very far, London. So you guys, a London seminar will be the next time UFC's in London. I'll probably be on that card, and if I'm there, I will do a seminar in London. All right, I'm trying to do one every time I go out to England. Okay, coach. How do you feel about Chuck Tito 3 in 2018? Okay, guys, listen. You guys are going to hit me for this, but I'm really excited about that fight. I want to see that fight. I know some of you fans out there are like complaining about it. But if you are been around the sport as long as I have, you want to see Chuck and Tito 3. You want to see it. Why? Because those are two guys who, they're legends in the sport. You might not, I know a lot of you guys, the younger fans, don't know Tito and Chuck as well as maybe the older fans do, but the older fans definitely want to see Chuck and Tito 3. I would say the majority of them. Now, here's my only concern about that. Is Chuck healthy? Because Chuck went through a streak of, where he was on the wrong end of some knockouts, okay? And it was some scary knockouts, some scary knockouts. But, I mean, if he's healthy, and that's not a concern, I'm talking about just as a fan, because I know some people are voicing like, hey, Chuck should never fight again. And they're saying that because of health concerns. Now, I get it. If there's a health concern, no, the man shouldn't fight. Health first. I'm with you guys. But if the medical experts are saying he's fit to fight, obviously he is because they're giving him a license. Okay, if they're saying he's fit to fight, who are we to say that these guys are all wrong? These medical experts are wrong. So if he's fit to fight, I want to see the fight. Why? Listen, we know Chuck got the better of Tito in the past, but Tito's been more active, obviously, and it's a new day. I think Tito might put a much better fight this time around against Chuck. So, what does Chuck look like after all these years? It's been many years. How many years has it been since Chuck last fought? It's been a long, long time since Chuck has fought. Very long time. So, I mean, it's got to be at least 5 years. I don't know how off I am from that, but it's got to be at least 5 years. What does he look like? Does he still have that knockout power? Is Tito going to bring him to the ground and sub him? That would be epic, What's going to happen? I'm going to tune in. No doubt about it. And I remember when they were doing Royce Gracie versus Matt Hughes. Everybody was complaining about it. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody. I would say half the fans were complaining about it. What is this? This is a dumb fight. This is a dumb setup. And I remember that a bunch of us were going to a Bellator fight the night of Royce Gracie versus Matt Hughes. We were flying down to Bellator. And no, was it Bellator? I can't remember. We're going to a show. Okay, we're going to a show, and it was the night of Royce versus Matt Hughes. It was either the day before or then after. I can't remember. But we were like on the road, and a whole bunch of us were racing to the hotel to watch the Royce Gracie versus Matt Hughes fight. I remember we were convening, and we were racing. We didn't want to miss this fight. Everybody that was complaining about it was tuned in and locked on the screen. They were locked on the screen. I'm telling you, like, half the people were always telling me, oh, no, this is a dumb fight. Why did they put this fight together? But as soon as the fight was hours away, everybody was racing to watch. And I'm telling you, I remember watching it in the hotel lobby. It was jam-packed. I mean, it was jam-packed. Everybody wanted to see. Even people who don't watch MMA, everybody was packed in wanting to see what's gonna happen between Hoist and Matt Hughes. Now these guys are just, they're so famous. They have so much They have so many fans that at the end of the day, you probably don't even know you want to see Chuck and Tito 3, but you're gonna tune in and you're gonna watch it. Did you tune in for Hoist versus Ken? I did. And their last fight, I'm talking about the rematch. I did. I didn't want to miss that. There's no doubt about it. I didn't want to miss that. So most of you fans who grew up with Tito and Chuck, even though you don't like the idea of the fight, and I know some of you don't, you're going to run to that screen, you're going to watch, and you're going to tune in. And I bet you they're going to have great numbers. No doubt about it. Is GSP a better athlete because of his gymnastics? I would say yes, of course, no doubt. But don't forget, he has a lifetime of athleticism. He's been developing his athleticism for a lifetime. Literally, he started training at the age of 5 or 6. You have to understand that, okay? So to get to that level of athleticism that GSP has, it's not a 6-month training program. It's not a 1-year training program. Imagine doing anything since the age of 6. Picture anything. Imagine you've been, I don't know, programming computers since the age of 6. You're working with your dad in an office, and he's a computer programmer, and he's showing you the basics. He's showing you how to type on a board. He was showing you like little things, like little baby steps. And by the time you're 20, you're 30, you're a genius. You're a computer genius. Imagine doing, dedicating your life to anything at the age of 5 or 6. Just imagine it. You would be a monster in your 20s, right? So don't forget, oftentimes he changes sports and he does different things. Why? Because it's motivation, right? So sometimes he's doing phases of Olympic lifting. Sometimes he's doing phases of track and field. Sometimes he's doing phases of gymnastics training. Why? He's not trying to be the best gymnast or best track and fielder. He's not trying to be the best shot putter or whatever. He's trying to just maintain his athleticism, develop his athleticism. He's focused on martial arts. He's doing martial arts for life. The other stuff, the fitness stuff, it's cyclical. He goes through phases where he's doing, long jump. He's just doing long jump. Long jump is going to help him stay healthy and fit and develop new attributes for his martial arts. That's it. He's never going to be the best long jumper. He's never going to be the best, sandbag carrier, whatever new skill, whatever new athletic skill he's trying to develop is just to keep his body healthy and develop his athleticism. Sometimes he goes through a phase where he's working in the pool a lot. He's doing a lot of different pool exercises. And this is just assistance work. You got to think about it. It's assistance works to keep you healthy and develop your athleticism. All right. What is the strangest sport he has taken up? Oh, that's a good question. What is the strangest sport George has taken up? That's a good question. Yeah. Actually, I wouldn't say they're strange sports. Really the basics. Just really the basic sports. Nothing really strange. No, none of them are strange. This is really common sense, basic sports. Nothing bizarre. One of them was, okay, I'll give you one that was pretty strange. Was he was learning how to fence. He was doing some fencing, but with a marker. Okay, so you can learn fencing with a marker. They have little drills where you do fencing with a marker. And I think a lot of people found that strange because he would put on a white shirt. His partner would put on a white shirt, and they would have markers, and they would try to do fencing with a marker. But again, it was just a distance control thing. It was just a reflex thing. It's just a fun thing to break the monotony of training and have a good laugh, and they put on the goggles and do the fencing with the marker. That was a little bit strange. I think you can call that strange, but obviously we're not going to, gear up in full fencing uniforms and all that at the gym. So, we just substituted it. But then again, it's just a fun little break from monotonous training. All right, what else we got here? What do you think about Rickson Gracie Invisible Jiu-Jitsu? It's absolutely 100% fascinating. That's exactly what, for those of you who don't know, what's Invisible Jiu-Jitsu? Okay, Invisible Jiu-Jitsu is the nuances of Jiu-Jitsu. The nuances, things that if you saw Royce Gracie do an armbar or Rickson Gracie do an armbar, you'd think you know how he does it. And then when he watches you do the armbar, he's like, this guy doesn't know how to do armbar. He just doesn't get it. There's nuances to the moves. And these nuances, these little things that are very hard to communicate verbally, are known as invisible jiu-jitsu. Now, I've had the privilege of rolling with great jiu-jitsu guys. Okay, excuse me. Great jiu-jitsu practitioners. Okay, one of them being Roger Gracie, arguably the greatest jiu-jitsu guy of all time. And his invisible jiu-jitsu is just like mind-boggling. Okay, mind-boggling. And I've gotten to work also with Braulio Estima, quite a bit, for months and months. And his invisible jiu-jitsu, he actually verbalizes it very well. Braulio Estima, in my opinion, he's the best teacher of invisible jiu-jitsu that I personally had a chance to work with. Because he'll tell you, look, this is invisible jiu-jitsu. This is something, if I did it to you 50 times, you would never notice that I did this little detail here. Look at this little detail here and there. Okay. Invisible jiu-jitsu makes a major difference. Major. It's what jiu-jitsu is all about, in my opinion. The details, the little details. Now, I have an opinion that the more beginner you are, the less details I give you. And the more advanced you are, the more details I give you. So if you're a black belt, I'm going to give you lots of little invisible jiu-jitsu chunks. If you're a white belt, I just make it really plain. I give you like really blocks. I don't give you the fine little pebbles, because those are just too, they're just gonna bother you, and they're not gonna help you. Okay, so the more experienced you are, the more little gems I like to give. But the less experienced you are, the more building blocks, thick, brute building blocks I like to give. Okay, I don't fuss over the details when somebody is more beginner, because when you're giving them lots of details, you're just giving them more and more things to confuse themselves with. Keep it really, really basic, but once you get past purple belt, or once you get to purple belt, once you're at the purple belt level, that's the first advanced belt in jiu-jitsu, right? Once you're at the purple belt level, you better start looking for these nuances. Okay, I've been doing armbar for 5 years now. What are the nuances? What's the difference between my armbar and a black belt's armbar? What's he doing different? When he passes the guard with leg drag, how does he do it differently than me? What are the differences? You got to spot these minute, small differences. And if you can spot these minute, small differences, if you can spot them, you just will get, light years better. It'll get ridiculously better. Okay. So, next question here. What else we got? When should a fight be stopped by a coach? Well, listen, I saw the Pennington fight. Okay, people were asking me what I thought of that. Look, I like to stop the fight. If my fighter's in trouble, I don't want him or her to stop the fight. If they tell me, hey, coach, I had enough, I'll stop the fight. Okay, I'll stop the fight. They don't have to say it publicly. And look, if Pennington really wanted to stop the fight, she should have just told the ref, I'm done. But of course, she doesn't want to do that, right? She doesn't want to quit. It's the coach's responsibility to know that the fighter doesn't want to pull the plug. And for whatever reason that is, okay, they're having an emotional struggle. A part of them wants to keep fighting, and a part of them saying, look, my nose is broken, this is inhuman, okay? Now, when they stop the fight themselves, they open themselves to a lot of criticism. They open themselves to a lot of judgments. And something happens to the fighter sometimes psychologically. They might be like, hey, am I a quitter? Am I not tough enough? Did I do something wrong? Did I let down my fans? You got to take that off the table for them. It's safety first, okay? So me personally, if I see my fighter has no chance of winning, okay, or let's make that more specific. If I think the chances of winning are less than 2%, okay, there's always a chance of winning. I like to tell my fighter, I would tell my fighter in a Pennington situation, I'll tell her, look, you have 30 more seconds to knock her out. I'll tell her, look, you have 30 seconds. If you don't knock her out in 30 seconds, I'm pulling the plug. I would take the burden off of her. Okay, why? Because I'll tell you why I wouldn't pull the plug right away. Because when you pull the plug right away, the fighter later in the locker room is going to be like, coach, why did you let me pull the plug? Don't forget, fighters in the heat of the battle, sometimes, they say crazy things. But when the heat of the battle cools down, they're like, hey, why didn't you direct me? Why didn't you help me out there? I was in a confused moment. Why didn't you encourage me? Why didn't you push me a little further? I can do it. Why don't you believe in me? That you might get that type of response. So if I look at my fighter and I ask them, are you hurt? Is your nose hurt? Yes, your nose or your ribs are hurt. And I see that you're not fighting back. Or for me, in the case of Pennington, the knees were just too much. In my opinion, those are too much. And for the long-term health of Pennington, it was too much. Okay, now again, I have no way to know for sure objectively. This is just from my experience of watching countless fights. This is where the human breaking point that I've observed is, and I have nothing to go on medically, obviously. We're not giving our brain scan between fights, and the doctor's standing there and he's seeing the same fight I'm seeing. But you think the doctor knows what it's like to get hit with a knee in the head? He doesn't know. He's never been hit in the head with a knee. He doesn't know the feeling, okay, the first person experience of what that's like. He's only looking at the aftermath after. He's going to look at the brain and say, oh, those shots do, you know, they create this type of damage. I don't know that. As he's watching it, the doctor doesn't really know either. Okay, most of the time they can't know. They don't have experience with that. There's no scientific experiment where we knee people in the head and then examine them immediately after and measure the impact of the knee and what type of knee hurts, what type of knee causes what type of damage. We don't know that. Okay, so there's a lot of guesswork, is what I'm trying to tell you all. There's a lot of guesswork. I would have told her, look, go in there. You got 30 seconds. Show me that you're fighting back. Show me that you're winning. You have 30 seconds to show me something good is going to happen on your end. If not, I'm throwing the towel. I'm going to wave it off. And I've done this in the past, and it happens. But you got to put the fighter's safety first. Now, it was a title fight. On a title fight, you know, the fighter, you want to give the fighter every chance to possibly win. But again, that should never go over safety. Safety first. Okay, guys, next one here. Was her coach wrong? Look, her coach told her, look, go in there, don't give up, go in there, don't give up. Was he wrong? Ultimately, yes. Yeah. There should have been a compromise, I think. But she started taking some nasty knees. Okay. She started taking some. I think he should have stopped it after 30. I can't remember the time, but when she started losing again, like when she went out there in the 5th round and she started getting hit, he should have waved it off immediately. And the fact that she's getting kneed over and over again, for me, again, there was more than just knees being thrown, obviously, but for me, the knees, I feel personally, in my experience, those were too damaging, really too damaging, like scary damaging, okay? Maybe her coach doesn't know. Maybe he's a wrestling coach. He doesn't know what it's like to get kneed in the head like that, but that's really too much, okay? So I think he should have stopped the fight at that point. And the body language of Pennington didn't seem like she was going to be able to fight back. Okay, it was just inevitable. Bare knuckle MMA. What are your thoughts? Look, I think that's a really bad idea. Bare knuckle MMA is a really bad idea, and I'll tell you why. Because you can only get so many fights in before you damage your hands irreversibly. Like your hands will be crippled. You know, the human skull is just it's a stronger bone, right? It's more robust than the fist, obviously. So I think it's, as a long-term sport, as a professional sport, it doesn't make any sense. How would a professional damage his hands like that? It's just crazy. Now, if you look at Lao, in the Lao culture, they have bare knuckle Muay Thai with headbutts. I just think that's ridiculous. I just think, personally, for me, that's just too much. That's where I draw the line. Master Faraz, who would win between a prime Anderson Silva and a prime Fedor? Well, I would pick Fedor, and I'll tell you why. Being the fact that they would be the same weight, okay? If they were the same weight, I would pick Fedor. Why? Because he'll get, in my opinion, he'll get the fight to the ground. His blitzing style of punching will get the fight to the ground. He'll close that distance over and over again. He'll keep closing that distance. There'll be so much clinching. He'll close that distance, and eventually his judo will take over. And when he gets on the ground, he'll just take over. In my opinion, his style is perfect to beat Anderson Silva. Woodman, big fan, much respect, Mr. Zahabi. Well, thank you, Mr. Woodman. Right back at you. Appreciate that. Kudo. I don't know what Kudo is. Is there foot sweeps in BJJ? Well, not really. You know, it's more of a judo thing. You know, why would you learn foot sweeps from any other art than judo or freestyle wrestling? They're the best foot sweepers in the game. So I love foot sweeps. I think foot sweeps are great. I drill them on the regular. I hit them on the regular. I think they're phenomenal. And but they're not the end all be all. You know, like everybody, when they learn foot sweeps, they go through a phase almost where they think that they're gonna foot sweep the whole world, and it's gonna be just foot sweeps all the time. And there are a few people who hit a lot of foot sweeps that it's kind of scary that's like their main move. And I think that's great. But foot sweeps is more of an opportunity. You know, when you see the opportunity, you got to take it. But they're not always there. You know, you gotta be. In my opinion, I think you gotta have a variety of attacks, and foot sweep is just one of those attacks. Favorite takedown from the clinch? I like the underhook, body lock stuff. I like that stuff, especially in MMA, because there's a lot of opportunity for body locks, more than in freestyle wrestling. Because while we're striking, we can flow into a body lock a lot easier. You can flow into a body lock a lot easier than you would if you're straight up wrestling. You know, because the strikes create those openings. Ortega or Holloway? Well, I don't know if that's booked. Is that booked? Is Ortega versus Holloway booked? Is Ortega versus Holloway booked? Well, if it is, I like that fight a lot. I like that. I really want to see that fight. I really, really want to see that fight. That's going to be an exciting fight. I definitely will not miss that fight. Now, who would win that fight? That's a good question. I would say that, look, I would say that Ortega's jiu-jitsu is better. No doubt about it. Are his takedowns good enough to get Holloway to the ground? I'm not sure about that. I have a strong doubt. And even if he does get him to the ground, is his jiu-jitsu so much better than Holloway's that he'll be able to finish him? I think personally Ortega can finish anybody. I think personally he could finish anybody. His guillotine, his triangle, his anaconda choke, his Darce game, I think can finish anybody in the division, no doubt about it. If he gets close to one of those submissions, and I'm not saying he can't armbar, of course he can do it all. He does all the subs. But if he gets close to one of those chokes, he could finish Max Holloway, I would say, in a high probability. But my question is, will he get there? I don't know. I think Max Holloway's striking will be too intense, too ferocious, too aggressive. Just too much at a high pace. Higher pace than Ortega can keep up with. And I think that ultimately Holloway will have the edge in striking. Can Ortega keep the striking competitive enough that he gets the fight to the ground? That's the question. And you know what? That's why I'm so excited about this fight, because if it is booked, I hope it is booked, because I like to watch fights where I don't know I feel it's really, really a competitive fight. But I would ultimately pick Holloway on this one, just because he has more championship experience. He has more 5-round experience. I think he's had like 3 championship fights now, or 3 or 4 5-rounders in the bag, and that's just huge. That's just huge. That experience is huge. What do we got here? Are you fasting? Well, I'm starting, guys, for those who don't know, Ramadan is this month. The fast, we're starting tomorrow here in Canada. So the consensus is that it starts tomorrow. So today is my last day. And today I'm not fasting, okay? So cheers to you all. Thank you very much. But tomorrow, yes, the fast begins. Now, I know I'm getting a lot of Ramadan questions, like how do you train during Ramadan? Guys, I've answered these before. Okay, so I'm going to say it again. And I'm going to probably say it a few times this month, happily. But if I'm not answering your question on Ramadan, it's because I've done it so many times and I don't want to be too repetitive. But look, stay hydrated, wake up before sunrise, drink, eat, stay hydrated, eat the healthiest, most nutritious foods you can, and keep your training to a technical basis only. Don't go out there and work hard. Don't do normal workouts, okay? Keep them really minimal. Just technical training, just movement training. Now, different parts of the world, the hours of daytime is much shorter. Here in Canada, it's going to be a long one, okay? So it's from like 6 a.m. to 9, or close to 9 p.m. Okay, so let's say 8:20, 8:30, 8:40 goes, I believe. So it's a long day. It's a really, really long day. So for those of you on this side of the world, and it's a much longer day, keep it really, really minimal. Be sensible, okay? Be really, really sensible. Take it easy, and just train sensibly. Just do technique. Just make it a month of technical work, and just keep the body healthy, okay? Don't punish the body. All right, what do we got here? When is the next live stream? Guys, I was supposed to do one on Monday. I was supposed to do one on Tuesday. I was supposed to do one today. I was traveling, okay? So I've been traveling. And sometimes when I'm not posting up videos, it's because I am traveling and I'm doing other projects. But these videos are supposed to come up regularly. Look, guys, follow me on Twitter. At Faraz_Zahabi@gmail.com. Excuse me. At Faraz_Zahabi on Twitter. I tweet always before I go on live, okay? So I'm never 100% sure when I'm going to be posting these videos. I'm doing them for timtam.tech. I'm doing them for you guys. I'm doing it for the sponsors. I have a new sponsor coming up this coming month. In the next coming month, I have a new sponsor to this channel. So hopefully we get more and more content out here. And hopefully I would love to do this, more, okay, obviously. But, I have a lot of commitments to other projects. And I gotta make sure that I prioritize. But this show's doing really well. Okay, so it's doing really well. Sponsors are really happy. The fans are really happy. I'm really happy to do it. It's what I like to do. So hopefully it grows. Hopefully I'm doing this in a studio one day, and it's just full-time MMA podcast and MMA training. And of course, my passion is training fighters. So I want to do that full-time as well. James Bendon, watch your video with Muhammad Hijab on consciousness. As a non-Muslim, found it really interesting. Will you make more videos? I guess I believe so. You know, I'm going to England. I'm going to England again next week. So if I'm planning to get together with my friend Muhammad Hijab, and hopefully we'll make another video. And you know, there's a lot to know, obviously. And for those of you who don't know, I'm also a philosopher. I have a degree in philosophy, and definitely lots to talk about there. You know, and sometimes it's gonna leak into this podcast. And we'll discuss it, and we'll have some good topics to discuss, because you guys, you MMA fans, are intelligent people. You know, people who do jiu-jitsu and do MMA are very, very, very intelligent people. So I like to discuss those things with you guys as well. So look forward to more videos like that in the future. Definitely check out Muhammad Hijab, because he's one of those thinkers who likes to go deep. You know, he likes to know. He likes to know the answer to these complicated questions that I think majority of people don't like to even ask. They don't even like to entertain, but he's a very open-minded individual. So check his channel out and check out his material. How do you develop a guard like Ortega for MMA? Well, I'll tell you something, okay? One really, really important thing when you're doing jiu-jitsu is to once in a while, put on the MMA gloves, or like not 4-ounce MMA gloves, but like 6-ounce, 7-ounce, 8-ounce MMA gloves, like, you know, ones made for sparring, and just kind of simulate ground and pound. So you'll play on the bottom. Your partner on top of you is somebody you trust, somebody who has experience, not some guy who's just starting out, okay? Somebody who's a purple belt maybe, and you trust the guy. The guy has a good temperament. He's not some crazy cowboy, okay? And tell him, look, just simulate shots. Just simulate it. Just like kind of pitter-patter, touch. We do that at Tristar all the time. You just fake the shot. You just barely touch the guy. Barely. You don't even make contact. And you're going to see, how does your guard game change when somebody's actually punching you? And the answer to that, look, I've done it 1,000 times. It does change. It does. It changes immensely. Okay, so I bet you Ortega does that all the time. No doubt about it. He trains with Henry Gracie, Hiron Gracie. They do that on the regular in their academy. I've been at their academy. I've trained at their academy. They do that on a regular basis. They throw the gloves out on the mats. People put them on, and they try to ground and pound the guy on the bottom. And, of course, when you're on top, it's different. You know, jiu-jitsu plus ground and pound on top is just easier. On the bottom, it's harder. On the bottom, it's more, things change. Your techniques have to change. More so than when you're on top. So it's really the bottom. When you're on the bottom and you have to negotiate the strikes, it changes the game. A lot of the sport techniques, a lot of the techniques that you'll do in IBJJF go out the window. They go out the window. This is what I call universal jiu-jitsu. Okay? Are there techniques, are there ways to play guard that work in all areas? IBJJF, gi, no gi, sub only, and MMA. Can the game, my game, fulfill all these criteria? So for instance, if you're playing deep half guard, let's say you're a deep half guard player and you're killing it in IBJJF, you're just killing it. And you're killing it even in no-gi. Your half guard game is working in no-gi. But then you go in sub only, and when you drop into deep half guard, the guys spin around inside senkaku and leg lock you. Like, a lot of times guys go in deep half guard on me and I just leg lock them because they're giving me a leg lock. They're giving me inside senkaku, my favorite position. I believe is the most aggressive finishing position in the game. When you put yourself in deep half guard, okay, I kind of slide over the head and I just flow right into inside senkaku. It's there. If I'm allowed to leg lock you, it's there. And it's not always there. Some guys are more aware of it. Some guys are harder to catch with it. I get it, okay? But you're still flirting with inside senkaku. And even worse if it's MMA. And sometimes I'm rolling guys who do MMA, and as we're sparring, guys who are kind of like coming into the MMA game, and they're deep half guard guys. I had a world-class deep half guard guy walk into Tristar Gym one day, and he wanted to do he was doing some MMA rolling with small MMA gloves, and we're kind of simulating the strikes. And he's a world champion in jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to name his name, okay? And he used deep half guard in practice, and he just got crushed. And he's a world-class guy. So, look, I have a place for deep half guard in my game. I believe it's a transition. Okay, it's a transition. Now, I've also seen world-class deep half guard guys do well in MMA with deep half guard. I don't want to say it doesn't work. I've seen it work, and I've seen it backfire. Now, my question to you is this. How much time and energy do you have to spend in deep half guard to get good at it? It's such a complicated, sensitive position that even a world-class guy can get it wrong. It takes so much time and energy to master that you were better off practicing wrestling and striking. Why did you spend so much time practicing deep half guard? Where if you get one little nuance wrong, it backfires on you. So that's my position on that. It's too complicated to learn for an MMA guy. It takes too much of an MMA guy's time and energy to learn. You're going to end up giving too much time to deep half guard. You're going to get deep in the deep half guard game, and you're going to try to put together this game that exposes your head as you. It's just too complicated. Why not just learn things that are safer and less complicated to learn, that it won't take 15 years to master? It won't take 10 years of intensive deep half guard seminars to master. It's just too complicated of a game, guys. There are simpler ways. And even the guy who's so good at it gets hurt when he does it. It's just not a great position, okay? Now, there are other few positions on the bottom that I also don't like very much. But again, you have to ask yourself, is there a better way to go about it? And I think Ortega does it in a really good way. He uses a lot of full guard. Now, even him in his fights, he gets hit. You know, when he fought Tavares, I mean, he got hit a lot on the bottom. At the end, he won the fight, but it wasn't an easy fight. You know, it wasn't a safe way. It's not a type of fight you want to have all the time. Now, Tavares on top of him was a black belt, and he's very seasoned, and his ground pound is very good. And Ortega was able to get an armbar attempt, a pendulum sweep. He ended up mounting him. It was a great fight. If you guys haven't seen that fight, that was one of the best fights in UFC history, in my opinion. It's a great fight, phenomenal fight. You know, it's got to be in the top ever, like top 100. It's gonna make it. Check out Tavares versus Ortega. What a fight! And you see some beautiful jiu-jitsu from the bottom by Ortega in that fight. Must watch fight. But again, he used full guard. I like full guard. I like half guard. Certain types of half guard. Deep half guard has to be a transition. Like if the window's got to be really wide open, I'll slide into deep half guard if the guy's giving it to me. But I won't fight for it because you'll get stuffed, you'll get hit, you'll get elbowed, you'll get hurt. In my opinion, you'd have to be so much better than the guy you're fighting in jiu-jitsu. If the guy's like a kickboxer and he knows very little jiu-jitsu and you're a black belt, yeah, deep half guard will work. Okay, but it'll work only in that circumstance where you're so much better than the guy. Where if the guy's equally competent to you, he's gonna stuff that deep half guard and he's gonna hurt you. Okay. Coach, how do you point spar a faster, taller opponent? Well, they don't call it reach advantage for nothing. Okay, the guy, if he's taller, faster than you, he has a shorter distance to cross, and he can cross distance faster than you can. You're in trouble. Okay, so look, when somebody is faster than me, and it happens to me all the time when I'm sparring, guys, I got to start doing more striking videos. I know. I'm going to start filming more striking videos, guys. I promise you. After Ramadan, this month, I'm probably not going to be sparring, okay? But I promise you, after that month, I'm going to start sparring more, and I'm going to film. Because I filmed recently a striking video. Just sparring footage. So that might happen during Ramadan, okay? So I might get that footage. I asked for it already. Somebody filmed it for me. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'll probably put it up. Maybe I'll make a striking video soon. But when you're striking, you got to create a lot of feints, a lot of smoke. If the guy is faster than me and taller than me, if I can't blind him, listen, I'm dead. Okay, I gotta blind him. You know how do you do that? With feints. Now, when you feint, you gotta see when you do a feint. Does your opponent react to your feint? If he doesn't react to your feints, something is wrong with your feints. Okay, so keep working on your feints and make your feints believable until the point where when you feint, your opponent reacts. And when your opponent reacts and he bites on a fake, that's the time for you to cross the distance and put the hurt on your opponent. Okay, but if he's taller than you, faster than you, and you can't fake him out, you're going to be in trouble. Okay. Favorite fighter outside of UFC? Well, okay, if you're going to say a fighter I don't train outside of UFC, because obviously I'm going to name you all my fighters, and you guys are probably not going to like that answer. So, fighter outside my fight in MMA. Okay, outside my fighters in MMA, outside of UFC. Favorite fighter. Oh, man, there's a lot of fighters I like. There's really a lot of fighters. Look, I love Fedor. I'm a huge Fedor fan. Okay, he's not what he used to be. I'm not arguing that. But classic Fedor was one of my favorite fighters. The way he fights so chaotically, it flow from striking to straight to takedowns, in a such a ingenious way that if you saw him, you'd think he's a beginner, but what he's doing is genius. You can't tell the difference between him. And only when seeing him win over and over again, then you realize, hey, the guy's a genius. He's not a beginner. He's actually a genius. The way he goes about it, the chaos that he brings. is brilliant in my opinion and fascinating. The way when he gets taken down, he flows right into an armbar. You ever notice how he flows? How he has a great takedown defense, but also the way he gets taken down, he does it in a way that he slips right into an armbar. And that armbar, if you defend it, he'll flow right into. If you guys didn't see his fight with Matt Lindland, he'll flow right into like a rolling armbar. The guy's he's a genius. The guy's a genius, and he has a mount escape that he does that is just brilliant. That I've never seen anybody teach, but I've seen him do it over and over again. I've seen him do it in practice, not live practice. I've never watched practice, but I've gotten a lot of footage of him training. Okay, I've done a lot of digging. Remember, I still am a big Fedor fan. Okay, I did a lot of digging on his training footage, and I'm very fascinated with Fedor. And he does this amazing mount escape that I personally have never replicated, but that he does, and that when you watch it, it's like I don't know who taught him that or he innovated it, but he does a type of roll. He rolls out of mount. Like if you mount him, he'll do a roll to come out of mount. And again, I forgot to revisit. I got to revisit that because I'm sure I could do this maneuver. I'm pretty confident that I understand how he does it, but he basically does a Granby roll out of mount, which is brilliant. I just reminded myself of it, so I'm probably gonna try it out this week again. Have you seen 52 block system? What do you think? I have no idea what you're talking about. What is a 52 block system? I don't know if you're trolling me, but let me type in 52 block system. I hope you're not trolling me because you'll get banned, Mr. 52 block system. 52 block system prison fighting something. Okay, hold on. I want you guys to watch this. You guys are watching this with me live. Hold on. Let me pump this through. 52 block system. It's out live. Hold on. We're going to watch this together. All right, let's watch this together. You guys who are listening to this on podcast, you're missing out. Okay, we're going to watch this together. What is 52 blocks prison fighting system? We're watching this together. I'm watching this for the first time. Most extreme prison fighting system. Oh boy. Their hands are lethal weapons. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is going to be hilarious, I'm sure. Justice Master. All right, what's this? Oh, a little parry there. This is a prison fighting system, I assume. So it looks like just boxing. Does it get any better? 52 hand block prison fighting system. Oh boy. Guys, don't direct your hate out. Who proposed this? Which one of you proposed this? Pull out his name, guys, please. Fetch his name. You guys can direct your hate at him. Voice of BJ Burns Justice. So he's basically looks like it's just boxing. Maybe it's a type of boxing with some prison rule tactics, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a prison type boxing. I don't know. Maybe a couple elbows, some clinch fighting. Let me fast forward this. 52. Boxing training. Nothing too exciting. Boxing training is great, and especially if you're in a cell, if you're a closed area, that's definitely the art you wanna pick up. All right, guys. So nothing too exciting there. 52 block, kind of disappointing actually. All right, let's go back to your questions. All right, guys, we are 1 hour in. I'm just gonna do a couple more, and we're gonna bag this one. I think this was a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed this. What do we got here? Hey, Coach, do you think Lyoto Machida is front runner KO of the year so far? Yes, I do believe he's. He did score an incredible KO, and he's an incredible fighter, no doubt about it. What do we got here? Hey, do you think that a dance like capoeira, breakdance, or ballet can be beneficial to MMA movements, footwork, and gymnastics? Yes, as gymnastics, absolutely, no doubt about it. I got to work with Braulio, like I mentioned earlier, and he was big in capoeira. Actually, I've seen him do some capoeira, and he's a freak athlete. I think capoeira is great. If you do capoeira in your youth, you train capoeira. It's just excuse me, it's very good. Like gymnastics. I would say it's up there with gymnastics. It's really up there. There's obviously a lot of kicking involved. So if you're going to convert to MMA later on, I mean, you got these powerful kicks right in the bag. You know, you got these dangerous spinning kicks that can create chaos in the fight. I think it helped Braulio a lot. His athleticism is really, really good. His athleticism is up there. And I really, no doubt about it, after seeing him do capoeira. And we used to take him to gymnastics with us. We used to take Braulio to gymnastics practice with us. And his gymnastics is good. And he never really did gymnastics in his life. It's just capoeira. So capoeira is great. No doubt about it. How do you coach a fighter who is too hard on himself? A negative thinker. Yeah, those can be quite annoying. You know, when somebody's just always looking at the negative. Well, you know what? In my opinion, those people, the only people that can really, they have to personally make an effort. And, I personally, I don't like the negative thinking. You know, I've met so many people that everything that ever comes out of their mouth is negative. They see everything as negative. They're going to see, I call it defeatism. And it's a chapter in my upcoming audiobook. Okay, defeatism. Somebody who's lost before they've even tried. Okay, we have this upcoming obstacle. Here are 10 reasons why I don't think we're going to make it. That's a defeatist. He's already lost. He's already assessed the situation mentally. And he's come to the conclusion that we can't win. That's a defeatist. He's defeated himself. He doesn't need any obstacle to defeat him. He's personally already defeated himself. Now, when you're confronted with a defeatist, I ask them always, look, you gave me 5 reasons why we're going to lose, why we're not going to make it. Give me 100 reasons why we're going to win. Just make them up. And usually they can't come up with one. So I'll tell them, look, can you come up with, forget 100. I gave you too much of give me one reason why maybe we can make it. One possibility. One competing theory. And sometimes they can't. And I can come up. I don't see any which way. Are you saying that it's completely, logically, 100% impossible that this obstacle could be surmounted? We have to formulate at least one scenario where we win, or where we make it across, where we are successful. Now, don't forget, when you try something in life, when you want to become a chef or you want to become an architect, the amount of failures far exceed the amount of successes. Like, the amount of failures are obviously higher than successes. But there's a point in your life, let's take, for instance, the jiu-jitsu journey, okay? So you guys can understand the context. There's a point, I should say there's a point where the failures out-succeed, outnumber the victories. So let's say you're a white belt, you go out on the mat. You're going to have more losses on the mat than you're going to have victories. You're a white belt, for goodness sake. You're going to have little micro losses. You're going to do a grip fighting sequence and you're going to lose the sequence. You're going to get dominated. You're going to get pinned. You're going to get passed. Be ready for the number of setbacks to outweigh the number of successes. Now, maybe you freed yourself from a side control. Okay, well, that was a success, a small success. You were able to regard. You're a white belt. You've been training for a few months. You're able to regard. The number of failures outnumber the number of successes. No doubt about it. But in the long run, when you become a black belt, the number of successes way outweigh the number of failures. Now, every black belt goes through that journey. Every black belt. However, the downside of being a black belt is when you have a setback, it hurts more. It hurts more because you're a black belt. You're not supposed to have these setbacks. Some people start having those thoughts in their mind. That's why you always have to have a balance between your understanding of what a setback is and what a victory is. Setbacks are going to happen less and less, but when they happen less and less, they actually hurt more. They hurt more. So there's a give and take. Even though I have less of them, they hurt more. And my successes come more and more, but they mean less. So when you're a white belt and you regard and you get out of side control, it's like, oh, I regarded, finally some success. That morsel tastes so good. That morsel of success tastes so good. When you're a black belt and nobody can even come close to passing your guard, you take that for granted. You're not even happy that you didn't get past. You're upset that you didn't sweep the guy at will. So our paradigms shift, right? Our paradigms shift. So there's always, what I'm trying to say is there's always a negative and there's always a positive. Wherever you are on the spectrum, there's always a negative, there's always a positive. There's always a negative, there's always a positive. So some people are locked on the negative. So that's a personality issue. That's a paradigm shift that they need to go through. I think they need to question themselves, ask themselves, do you really want to live this way? Do you really want to live this way? We cannot escape the negative. The negative is always going to be there. The positive is always going to be there. But what do you want to focus on? What narrative do you want to live by? What paradigm do you want to live by? And that's a personal choice. That is a personal choice. Your paradigms, your narratives are a personal choice. And I'm going to dig deep in that in the upcoming audiobook that I'm going to have for you guys. And I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But at the end of the day, it's a personal choice that they're making. And I think you got to try to negotiate them out of it, one example at a time. Do you have an opinion on being deluded that you're the best cause? Do you have an opinion on being deluded that you're the best? I think you mean comma, because I definitely am. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Some people do think they're the best. Yes, I get it. They're deluded and they're not really that good, and they have a type of narcissism, and they're totally on the other side of the spectrum. Well, those people are equally as annoying, and I think that both being on the end of both spectrums comes with a major consequence, and that major consequence is a type of human connection. Okay, so for instance, the happiest people in the world, okay, have a variety of traits. Now, one of those traits is that they have a good human connection. They don't feel loneliness. They don't feel a type of loneliness that somebody who's imagine having nothing in common with anybody. You walk into a room, you walk into I don't know, maybe you're walking into a social environment, okay? And you have nothing in common with anybody in the room. You're not going to feel as comfortable as if you walk into a room and everybody in that room has a lot in common with you. They like jiu-jitsu, they like fitness, they like philosophy, they like training. I'm saying that because you guys are in this channel. You probably have that in common with me. And you guys are talking about your favorite topics, and you're sharing into your most favorite events, and you're talking about your most, favorite foods or what. You have all this amazing connection with people. And you're enjoying yourself much more than in a party where everybody hates what you like. Everybody loves what you hate. And you just don't feel that connection. You're not sharing in the human experience. Now, when you go to either extreme, when you're super narcissistic, you'll look at narcissistic people eventually usually end up alone in their life. Why? Because they kind of reject everybody. Nobody's good enough. Everybody is flawed except them. And eventually what happens is they end up weeding them. And I've obviously had experiences with narcissistic people. It does exist, especially when you work with famous people. Once in a while you'll meet somebody who's, again, I'm not a clinical psychologist, but it's almost unmistakable that they're narcissistic. It's almost unmistakable. And they will have, those people, in my observation, my personal observation, okay, this is not me talking to you as a psychologist or anything like that, but it's my personal experience, they only have superficial relationships. Their relationships are superficial. So they might have a wife, they might have a good friend, a friend they're always with, a hang around, an entourage. But those people are sorry guys, I think it just skipped on me, but like I was saying, like in my experience, when I meet a very superficial type superstar, he's very superficial, he has a superficial relationships with his entourage and his friends and all that. I think he knows that they're only around there because of their fame and fortune, and they know that he knows, and it's just kind of like a cold arm's length type relationship. They don't have a really familial type of connection. I think that's the price that they pay. That's just been my observation. They don't have a real bond, a real true friendship. And the second that things go bad, I remember there was one boxer that was like over the top narcissist. I won't mention his name. Over the top narcissist, undefeated fighter. I think you guys will know who I'm talking about. Undefeated fighter, so famous. Actually, you might not know because this happened quite a bit. This probably happened quite a bit in boxing. Over the top self-promotion, self-love, just self-promotion. Blatant. And then one day he lost a fight that he wasn't supposed to lose. Okay, and I'm using air quotations with one hand because I got to hold the mic. And when he walked out of the fight, and this guy's famous for walking into the fight with an entourage. When he walked out of the fight, he was completely alone. Like nobody was around him. He didn't have his hype man. He didn't have the guys yelling his name and chanting his name. He didn't have any hype man around him. And he just made that walk by himself totally. Where was his entourage? Where were his friends that would stand with him through thick and thin, etc.? Where was he? Where were they? Where are they? Where are his buddies, his good friends? No matter what, it doesn't matter. We're in for thick or thin. He didn't have that, right? And it's just an example that some of you out there putting up names. I'm not gonna name names, okay? But look, there comes a consequence with that. There comes a consequence, in my opinion. And if you have your, like for instance, they ask Donald Trump. They ask Melania Trump, would you have married Donald Trump if he wasn't a billionaire? And she answered, would he have married me if I wasn't, again, I'm paraphrasing here, okay? Would he have married me if I wasn't a supermodel or whatever she is? Look, I understand, nobody is so selfless that they married somebody because they're ugly but have a beautiful interior beauty. Like, I'm not going to go that far, I married my wife because I find her attractive. But I also have a higher criterion than that. Beauty is not enough. She has to be a good person. She has to have virtue. She has to have morality. She has to be a kind person. I have lots of criteria, not just beauty. Beauty is one, and it's not the most important one. It's high up there. But good character for me personally is super important. Somebody with a good character. And I need somebody smart also. I need somebody that when I talk to them, there's a back and forth. There's a type of mental interaction. I can't just look at the girl, right? So, excuse me. There is in my opinion, a consequence to being very superficial, a long-term consequence to being superficial. So to answer your question, when you think you're the best and you're loving yourself, I like to tell fighters, look, don't tell us how good you are. We'll tell you how good you are. You never need to tell us how good you are. Sometimes I have fighters telling me, hey, coach, pay more attention to me. I'm really good. I'm like, dude, show up more often. I'll pay more attention to you. The more you show up, the more I pay attention to you. That's the criteria. And I'll tell you when you're good, and the fans will tell you when you're good, and the experts will tell you when you're good. The MMA critics will tell you you're good. Don't tell me you're good. Just keep that out of your mouth. It's not progress. It's not beneficial to the practice room. Somebody telling us that they're good. It's just something that I find doesn't produce anything of value. All right, guys, we are in overtime, so I'm gonna do one last comment or question, and then we're gonna put this one to bed. I think we had fun. I think it was a good one, and I gotta work also on Patreon. I'm putting up a Patreon video up soon. Later today or tomorrow, guys. It's coming out tomorrow. I'm putting up 2 videos this week. One of how to do a certain technique, and then one narration, a live in-action video narration of me doing the technique over and over again. Side control, protecting yourself in side control and escaping, okay? Coach, what are your thoughts on Hinduism? Okay, guys, I don't know much about Hinduism. I did one class in university on Hinduism. One class. Obviously, that does not make me an expert on Hinduism. Now, I've come across, over the years, of different concepts in Hinduism, but I don't feel that I know enough about Hinduism to make any intelligent commentary on that. So for those of you who are schooled in Hinduism, please leave your links and comments and details in the description, and let us know your position. If you can sum us, what is the central theme of Hinduism? I personally don't know. So that one I can't really help you with. So because that was not a good answer, I'm gonna do one more. Okay, so what else we got? All right. Is willpower limited? Okay, guys. Is willpower limited? Yes, willpower is limited. Every human being, in my opinion, has a limited amount of willpower. Now, if you guys read Charles Duhigg's, it wasn't Charles Duhigg's. It was the book called Willpower, because I've read a few books on habits and willpower. It was I forget who the author was. It was titled Willpower, and they talk about the experiment, the classic experiment, where they give 2 groups like a mathematical quiz to answer, and the group. Both groups were given chocolate chip cookies, and one group was told you can have the chocolate chip cookies, and one group was told no, you cannot have the chocolate chip cookies, don't have them. And the group that weren't allowed to enjoy the chocolate chip cookies while they were doing their tests, they had given up on the test quicker than the group that were allowed to indulge in the chocolate chip cookies. Now, of course, this is not a perfectly controlled experiment. There could have been other factors, but the experimenters hypothesized that it might be because they had to resist 2 things: their the group that quit on the problems faster, they had to resist eating the chocolate chip cookies, and they also at the same time had to resist the urge of giving up on the test, because the test that they were given had no answer. So it was a trick question. Okay, there was no answer to this question. However, they wanted to see how long they would take before they give up. Now, the group that were not allowed to indulge and yield seemed to display that they have to have more. They had to have their willpower was more strained. Now, even though it's not a perfect test, and I'm probably butchering the details because I read this book years ago. I probably read it like 4 or 5 years ago when it came out. I don't remember what year it came out, that book, but I read it about 4 or 5 years ago. It was an interesting experiment. I know that this experiment, it's cited throughout different books. I've seen it throughout different books. It's quite famous. It's quite famous. I've seen it being cited over and over again. I believe it to be true in my own personal experience. Sometimes I feel like I have too many things I have to limit myself with, and I think that that's stressful on the system. When you have to be too good on your diet and you have to, learn multiple things and you have to go through your routine, and people are you're just asking too much from a person. I've noticed that people, under the stress start to break down. And you look at George St. Pierre. He's one of the most strongly willed human beings I've ever met. Okay, he has a strong will. Even he got tired of the MMA routine. Even him, he needed a break. Why? It was just too much. It was just too much. The training demands, the fighting on a regular basis, the media demands, the popularity, the sponsorship demands. It was just too much. And he's a guy who, he's strict with his routine. Like, the guy, you cannot get him off his routine. George is like a pit bull when it comes to his routine. We laid out the routine. He's like a pit bull on it. He will not break away from the routine. It is very hard to get him to change course. And even him, he found the routine at one point. He needed a break. He needed to stop the routine and go through a period of there is no routine. So that's just been my experience, that even the most strongly willed human beings, they need a breather. So that's why I'm a big believer in having one day off a week where you do an active rest. So I like to do like mobility work, stretching, a day or I just go to the pool and I chill and I relax and I let the body recharge. I feel that when you go in the practice room, you should have a hunger. You should have a type of hunger. If you don't have that hunger, it's okay to go do a run that day or do something else than your sport. It's okay. Go play tennis. Go shoot some hoops. Like, if let's say you're a jiu-jitsu guy or you're an MMA guy and you're in the gym all the time and you wake up and you don't have that hunger to go to the gym today, it's okay. Go do an active rest. Go to the park and shoot some casual hoops. Just play a fun game of basketball. Don't do any sets and reps and sprints, and don't do anything. Throw that away for a bit. Just go have an active rest. Go have fun, but be active. Go ride your bike. That's what I do. I have a Roubaix bike. I love my bike, and sometimes I just take my bike. I'm not gonna go to practice today. I take my bike, and I go ride my bike for an hour and a half. It's an active rest. I just chill. I don't do any intensive work necessarily. It's just fun. Okay, get the heart going a little bit and then just get out there and have fun. And then the next day you want to go to practice, and that's a good hunger to have. Okay, so that's my opinion on active rest. All right, I got a super chat, so I'm just gonna bang out this super chat, and that'll be it. When's the next Pure BJJ coming out? Pure BJJ, Kimbo. I've been on the road so much, I haven't filmed one in a long time. I haven't given up on the project, so I will bang out another Pure BJJ in the coming weeks or months. I don't know. I'll try to get it out to you guys. I apologize for not doing it more often, but I've been on the road quite a bit, so I'm managing now this intense travel, which should quiet down in a month or so. It should quiet down, and hopefully Pure BJJ will be back on the rise. Okay, guys, don't forget, we have the Tristar dorms, tsdorms at gmail.com. Come on down and train and enjoy your summer with us. And the rates are reasonably priced, and come and train, and it's lots of training. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, comment. As always,